All right, I just finished another book. It is August 5th or 6th, one of those, 2024, and I have finished Excalibur by Bernard Cornwell, the last in the trilogy of Warlord Chronicles. I started this morning and I finished two nights. I finished the night. So it was a pretty hefty day of reading, and it was a joy the entire time. I think I think it was maybe not as good as the second one, or just about as good. I can't wrap my head around it right now. However, regardless, it is a fantastic read, an epic read, but more happened in this book than the previous that could be construed as fantastical, that could be not being able to be accounted for, that I could see. Maybe there's some wild thing that could account for it, I don't know. But a lot of stuff happened in here, more than, again, the second one, which was like never even present in the first one. That was fantastical. This is a historical fiction, right? But that happened. So if you're looking for just historical fiction, I mean, I'm sure the fantasy historical fiction genre readers kind of bleed over. But if you are wary of that stuff, that might get you. Because it did, I love fantasy, I love all that, and I can accept it, but it did come off as strange as I was reading it. Because you're in the mindset of historical fiction, and then that creeps in, and you're like, oh, what's happening here? What's going on? I might be, just to be more specific, hand up for spoilers, right? And I'll put it down pretty quickly when it's done. Anywho, like the time when Derval's wife, right? I'm struggling with her name. A lot of the names are like strange, and I skip over. I know them, but I don't keep them in mind. Anyway, where she was sick and almost to death, but being kept alive, like, it was strange. I don't know. And then Nemu was able to tell, like, okay, she's gonna not feel any pain, she's gonna get better, but then get worse for that time. It was just, I didn't get it. And then, like, poking the Merlin's clay figure and then him feeling pain, like, it was just strange. Down. Okay, no, non-spoilers. Things like that, I was very, very skeptical of, and that took me out a bit. And I think that is the main thing that would detract from this book. It was fast, amazingly paced. You're in the view of Derval and everyone else who has survived up to this point, who is of the old guard, let's say, who are now older, a lot older, obviously, a lot older, a lot more tired, a lot less vibrant. But it is natural. It felt natural. You felt the natural aging. You felt the love growing. You felt the real brotherhood solidifying and being solidified, really, at this point. And it was a beautiful read in that part, especially with the Arthur and Derval, let's say, romances, if you want to call it that, their loves. That really was the heart of this series, really. Is it Canewin? Is that her name? Anyways, sorry. Derval's not wife, but his woman, as it said. Anywho, that really drew it through the kings and the compatriots, like Colwich, is that his name? Yeah, it's really hard to remember these names as I sped through it. I guess I'm figuring it out. But all of his brothers, the Mithras brothers, let's say, and all of that. I didn't get closure on hand up. I didn't get closure on Sansom, the terrible Christian that he was. I didn't get that. And then with Derval in the future, I guess it might be like a historical thing I could look into. but it looked like the Saxons were now invading, and this was their final win, basically. Because we know the Saxons end up winning in the long run. So it might be that they were just swept off, but we never got that final point of view because we keep going back in time, right? Or it's written from the future, and we're seeing the past written, but we never see the conclusion. And I guess that means maybe Derval and the monastery wherever he was at was taken out, and the queen or the princess Igraine was killed along with all the Britons who remained, that kind of stuff. But I don't know, right? I don't know, and I'm left a little bit wanting on that end, down again. But the overall, like, Arthurian myth part of it, that was very satisfactorily ended, for sure. And you know, I wanted to hate characters and I didn't hate them by the end. There were also times where things were set up and they were sometimes quickly were dispelled, and you were taken down a different path, and these things happened in ways that you didn't expect, right? And I thought that was really cool. I'm going to do a hands up again because I really just, like, I don't want to talk platitudes, right? Or just speak weirdly. Like, for instance, Derval's hand being cut off, right? For now a book, we've thought, okay, one of the brothers is going to take off reclaim his honor by taking Derval's hand for payment of his own, for losing his own, right? And then he was put into a situation where the guy's literally saying, I'm going to take your hand tomorrow, right? And then it gets cut off in a completely different way, and a much more satisfying way, I'd say, right? So things like that really enhance the book, enhance the reading experience, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. This is one of the best trilogies I've ever read, one of the best series I've ever read. It is magical, it is heartfelt, big battles, and I felt the battles in here were a lot better in the skirmishes. In the beginning, this has I think the best duel I've ever read in a book. And it was like at the 30% mark. It was towards the beginning of the book. With Derval, obviously, right? And it was one of the best, for sure. And I remember hearing, after reading Faithful and the Fallen, the last book, where there is a famous duel in there, people were saying, oh, this is the best duel they might have ever read in their life. And I read it and I was like, maybe not. It's okay, it's satisfying, but it didn't feel as realistic as it could. It didn't feel like it focused on, let's say, the combatants and what they did. It kind of focused more on like this evil being and what they were saying and how they were reacting. That's how it came off. But with this one, it was a realistic duel that you really felt, and you were at the edge of your seat. It went on a perfect length where it wasn't over quickly, the tension built, and you were thoroughly impressed by it. And yeah, I thought this book had amazing stuff, amazing things. And this series in general has convinced me that first person point of view isn't only for young adult books and maybe Red Rising, right? So yeah, it's just an impressive all-around book. I would give it, because of the things that I said kind of took me out of it, I would bring it down to like a 9. This book is like a 9. But overall, like the series, I would say first book was the weakest because it was kind of slow. This book is next. I don't know what my ratings were, right? But second book is definitely the best. It's weird having the second book being the best. But it was also like that for First Law. First Law, the second book, was also the best for that too. But anyways, this is second best of the series. Series overall, every one of them hit over 9s, which is more than First Law can say, right? And I would put it up there with Lord of the Rings for sure, 100%. This is like the second best series I've ever read. 100%. Second best series I've ever read in my life. So great. And I have no doubt I will tell people about it and read it in the future after I have read more of these classics that I am just missing out on, and I have missed out on for so long. So I am fixing that, and I knocked out this one, and it is now second place on my all-time list, and who knows, something else might bring it down later, and I hope to find it. But on to the next book, whatever it is.